This is Village Square Booksellers. There's some refreshments over there, restrooms downstairs, and we're happy to host the New Hampshire Poet Laureate for Poetry Month. And we've been fortunate enough to have a display over at People's Bank, and we've been featuring Vermont and New Hampshire poets over there, so that's been nice. A little extra publicity for us, and I have displayed old posters and everything. Maybe that's our good turnout. We can think good thoughts about that, right? So, Alice has written many books over the years. One of them is Strange Terrain, which is a poetry handbook for the reluctant poetry reader. And Interval, which is poems based on Bach's Goldberg variations. Interesting. We have Be That Empty, and we have a collection on reading selected poems. This is probably a collector's edition, having this here.
Yeah, maybe.
So, Alice is an 8-time Pushcart nominee and a recipient of the National Endowment for the Arts Individual Artist Fellowship, and her poems appear also in many journals and anthology. And she leads writing classes in the area at Landmark, right? Or
At Landmark, I don't exactly do that.
Okay. Well, anyways, you lead writing classes in the area.
Yeah.
So I am happy to welcome Alice Fogel.
Thank you. Well, thank you all for coming, and thanks for hosting me. I want to talk a little bit about this book before I start reading to help explain what's going on in it, because if you've even cracked it open, you've noticed that it looks really weird. So I'll crack it open for you so you can see what I mean. Let's see. So in this book, it's kind of surreal, a little bit magic realist maybe, and it's written with the house having the major point of view, not in the first person, but just as if the house is talking to the people in it. And so the poems line up on both sides of the page to kind of look like rooms, like they have walls. And the house is also kind of a way to talk about what's going on in the house, about the relationship that lives in the house. So the house addresses the people as you, all of the people as you. So you're going to hear me say you, and it's going to be different yous. I also was trying to mimic the things that happened in a long-term relationship with the language and the syntax in the book. So the lines of the poems visually kind of reach out towards each other sometimes, and sometimes overlap, and sometimes pull away from each other, the way that we do in relationships. Sometimes we finish each other's sentences, sometimes we don't need to explain things, sometimes we so phrases in the book, as you're reading it, the phrases, sometimes a phrase will finish a thought, sometimes the same phrase will be its own thought, sometimes that same phrase will lead into a new sentence, so it's going to have an overlap going on. And if you're reading it to yourself, you can kind of keep on going back and forth like this to hear all the different meanings. When I read it out loud, I have to nail it down by how I inflect it, which makes it a little hard for me to, there's no punctuation or places to stop or anything, so it's kind of hard to read out loud. But somebody told me the other day that the book teaches you how to read it, which is really great for me to hear, because I know it's challenging. So if you read it and you start to get what's happening with the syntax and the language, I think it'll start to make more sense. So I used all the different parts of the house. It's actually kind of fun to look at all the different things in the house and how much they represent other things. And so you'll hear some of that too. I mean, if you think about, we talk about the basement, the attic, the closet, different rooms in the house, the kitchen sink, the floorboards, how they start getting cracks in them, the windowsills that have gotten wet and start to pull apart. So all of those things kind of represent things about relationships. All right, so I'm just going to start reading a couple of them and hope this goes okay. And what I'm really hoping is that you'll see relationships of your own in this book, and you'll also just maybe have a good time with wordplay, because that's what a lot of it is. It's just playing with language. This one's called House of Mirrors. Do you imagine the house doesn't see you when undressed? You solicit mirrors, memories of your better form. How are you different from a teenager, from the house, each with some vague yearning, without knowing what for, something lost or not yet brought home? Every house has a drawer for things no one can find, a room you think you're invisible in. This house is a closet, your whole life storage, flashing before your eyes. Adjust to the inside, beyond frame, the measurement on centers, the tongue and groove of your lives passing, time after time. The house would like you to keep looking till you see yourself disappear, or both. Double takes in the house, a backward glance more mercurial than your dread of regret, as if you were alone on that stage. In your reflection, you find your skin shattering. Close your eyes, think you are praying, but all that is hope. I also was trying to cover pretty much all the emotions possible in a relationship as well. So, there are some ones that are funny, some that are sad, some that are frustrated or angry, wistful, all different kinds of feelings, and I tried to attach them to the parts of the house as well. But also I was having a good time with the language, so there are puns, and there's humor even in the more serious ones. So this one is about mice. It's called House of Mice. And it's very much a New Hampshire-y kind, well, Vermont too, kind of poem. There's mice there. Trying to think if there's anything I should explain, but I don't think so. All right, mice. The house is of time, not space. Age comes in time, for death all along is a shadow of itself, lately longing for analysis of heights and breadths and our values of 30 or more. So you pawn then, for now, phase out the old and in the new idea of you, as if, as you revise, you could freeze time. No sooner is every hinge and strip of trim driven in to place than you start anew, tack on an addition, take out a wall, while mouse by mouse hollows nests in gnawed fiberglass. Anymore you never get warm, even turning up the thermostat to heat the entire state of New Hampshire, turning over under covers, cells, replacing mimetic cells every 7 years, itch in places mice come and go, but you can't reach or measure when change became change, at what point it was too late for a house to ever be perfect, but maybe you still could be, upgrading the windows and storms, reframing cold drafts of who you are, collecting like kibble inside winter boots you put your foot in, fall caches of seeds hidden behind spice jars, you out of another renovation plan. Your next move, like so many pieces of furniture you take for granted, How many versions of you there are, 2 by 2 by 4. You don't know if you would choose a skyscraper loft or the country chateau today over yesterday. Which is the real you say you want to be yourself? Which one wonders? The house is confused about what you do or don't repair when you're a little worse. For where did you go through this before? Like screws newly working their way back out of the sheetrock, one by one, mice eating away all the insulation. So I think it sounds like you're hearing some of the ways that the words are overlapping, and it sounds like you're getting some of that. All right, so this one is called The Recurrent House, which sort of plays off a recurrent dream, and it's also a little bit like a fairy tale or a bad dream. I'm thinking about the fairy tale. I think it's the Bluebeard or something, maybe. It's creepy. The Recurrent House. Where are you when you exit and enter through your strange invisibility? Like a ghost on the couch beside you, the shadow of another time goes in search of a change of walls without scare tactics, like did not listen at the keyholes, never open this third room, hypnotized by the mystery of a distant whirring of wheels, repeating clinks of glass and ice, a threatening hum like the falling hush of hair behind a heavy door. Wandering, you reconsider the option to disobey, the thrill of the unforeseen consequences, till you're lost in the circular stairwells. In every corner overlaps up with down and east with west, a missed guess, an emptiness at the center where there shouldn't there be an inner chamber, or at least a great hall? You're afraid, or are you hoping you might fall over the threshold, thorns on ancient roses below, a sky reminiscent of suspension, bridges between recurrent dreams of endless corridors and turns over and over. You slip between shifting surfaces, edge. Sure, you've been here before, but where? You thought you knew the place of every armoire and chair, every bedpost, bare spaces, long scratches mar the parquet, or unexpected frames scrape your shins again and again. You could swear you hear latches click, the click of latches catching. No one answers when you call out. No voice calls from you. Curl your hand over the knob. Believe you feel held, gripping of someone else's on the other side. All right, here's a couple of downer ones, and then I'll try to bring it up a little bit after that. House of Habit. Who expects the 1,000th overheard whisper to blow into breezes, slam the doors, and violate the habitual order of papers, foresees how it spins into force, a hurricane, shakes loose the length and depth of solid inner workings, clatter like skeletons in their closets, dishes tip from their shelves, crash, and then, in the quiet aftermath of this small personal disaster, a single ray of light sliced a line too bright to face a divide. Down the center of the house is a shift in the winded leaves, a fallen branch between the house and the sun, some swift repercussion hitting a dead end or turning a corner, maybe a prod against the season's usual angles, an unexpected equinox, a sharper tilt in the axis at the core. Who knows who is to blame for a heated knife cuts to the quick like an instinct for dwelling on dread, the seduction of that thin voice in the ear saying, turn away from the full light of joy. You cut away so many times you don't recognize the blade you have become. House of eyes. House of eyes, of rope, of slow suicides, and the wind in the trees shadows the lifeless window, makes moonlight pulse. Against walls shudder, through rooms in silence, so twined you can hear the lashes sweep the pillow with every blink.
Excuse me, the title, eyes as in
Yes.
eyeballs. Thank you.
Yeah. Because the eyes are open
Yes.
in the night. All right, this one is really surreal and magic realist. It takes place in the bathroom, and it has a bunch of monkeys in it. It's a rainforest. The bathroom is the rainforest. It's about trying to have a moment of privacy. So you could think of the monkeys as a partner, or you could think of the monkeys as children, you know, just the lack of privacy going on. The bathroom. For one Amazonian moment in the house's rainy season, you peel off your clothes, sigh to be free, and then, naked and exposed there, is a rustling behind the shower curtain, some swung monkey coiled to the vine and peeking around the pulled plastic, freshly splashed with tiny tears caught in the lashes of a tribe indignant at your mission of a single moment of privacy must be mocked, monkey by monkey, with little fists clutching the towel hooks your futile dream of solitude to a fevered desire to mimic a desert ambiance with the tiles hard reds, the rooms dry ochres. Out in the open spaces, one spies under the clouds of condensation, another hungry one drumming up and down on the washing machine, two under the overturned basket of soiled laundry, more rolling across the linoleum, toilet paper ribbons, rude in the ceiling fans whoop at their good fortune to be here now in your bathroom. You steam and whirl and listen through the singing stream from the shower head, for the baby oil slicks the floor, more sticky clinging fingers flinging a coconut, cream rinse crying across the canopy, more sliding the mango soap just beyond sight, unblinking, barking, your skin crawling in the tropical humidity of jungle, leaves traces large as washcloths and deep as the woven mulch of bath mats, your hair tangled with their rubbery, clamping, hand-like paws screech, wiping clear the mirror to find your face, your breasts seen, not only seen, but needed and judged by a jury of your peering monkeys, scratching and picking everywhere they can with their long curling arms, reach your body at last, a tree to be climbed to all that is ripened, good fruit to be mouthed and chewed.
Too familiar.
I'll just read a couple more. So I also was playing off of how many different things we use the word house for. You know, there's the theater is the house lights. There's, actually, if you look it up, a house is actually an old mathematical measurement. We don't use that term of it anymore, but it is that. So I had to do a house of cards, just because that's a phrase we use, right? So, you know, anything I could think of that had to do with houses, I was playing with it. So in this poem about the cards, there's a reference to each of the four, what are they called, suits? The diamond, the heart, the, all four of them. You know what they are. The clubs, you know, all of them. All right, so they're in this house of cards. House of the axis and the axe, the X and the Y, human and hewn. In spades, you can pick apart the crossing vertical and horizontal ribbons, open the house like a gift or a tomb. But the house, an overturned card, remains a mystery, the how and the why of it, an act of faith, a lyric. And is that the problem or the point, the what, the or the is? To visit or to live from the heart, dependent on how steady the hand dealt, you want the house to stand for something, some physical manifestation of marriage or meaning, an avatar, prophet, or prophecy. You also love reason being what you make of it, with sleight of hand, two of one, kind of another, balanced on edges, stretching from floor to ceiling. The full house may be your keeper, your strength, your stronghold, or your strangler, a club that would have you as its dues-paying member. If not for the precarious, how could the diamond-hard fate retract such light? You can't look straight at it till it all comes tumbling down your poker face, the stories of the whole construction project fluttering free. This one is called House of Rain. I mentioned before about the windowsills. That one's kind of in here about how if you leave the windows open and the windowsills are wood, they're going to start to show where the pieces, where the layers of time are in the wood. The house actually at one point kind of tries to think about, maybe that's in here in this poem too. Think about, what was it like to be a tree, because it's made out of wood. Maybe that's in here, we'll see. The House of Rain. As if the wind ascends, stirred by leaves, and not the other way around the house, you can hear from your comforter, first leaf, another leaf, after leaf, every leaf ticking down branch by branch. What it must be like to be a living tree. The house has no memory of timber mills, its own songs in fallen canopies, its own snows dusting down, surfaces spring free, and when rain comes now, it is only rain here and nowhere else, for no one else knows whether anywhere but here there is rain or no rain, only maybe paths taken by soaked leaves falling to the rain layers, you and you wait, drop upon drop, plating into deltas, spread small maps of years accumulate on glass ballast. The house floats tiny acorns on the sky lights, up rain slipping into what buckets can't hold, buckling and disheveling, till there is nothing to be done, nothing not undone, but the wind wanting nothing but to come in, warm to meet your skin halfway, open windows in love with air flow, drunk on rain, the selvages, pine and oak sills rise from year to year, life to life, echoes lumber, seasons of slumber and sun, lift apart plain rings like spools of thread. Time unwinds you, at last drink to you in the storm, through every room, drinking what you can carry, rain in your hands, imperfect cups. House of Happiness. Sometimes you think that happiness is a very thin veil, fragile as the body it envelops. And you think that happiness is not what you want to wear. Or you think happiness is a house promising as the marriage it shelters, and you think that happiness is not where you want to live, but what you are. So I wanted to see if anybody had questions for me about, yeah.
If I may ask a couple questions about the structure, the wall, as you described it. Are there any of the poems that you imagine are here in your head that are read like almost with two different voices on each of the walls? Do you see what I mean?
I don't, I mean, there are overlapping voices kind of, but I don't think it would work to just go voice, 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 voice because of the way things overlap. I don't know. We could experiment with it, but I don't think it would work.
Another question with regard to that. I notice as it's printed, it's basically one wall, other wall, other wall, other wall, other wall.
Sometimes the lines are on, they come together on the same line, like the House of Cards.
That I guess was my question, yeah.
Like they're on the same line, but just like with a break, and then sometimes a line will go all the way across. I kind of had this, I envisioned like throwing a marble, like dropping a marble right here, and just seeing like how it would go through, but then sometimes it would get stuck. Was that what your question was about?
Yeah, if you had experimented with that, the answer is yes. Thank you. And then this was wonderful too. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thanks. Yeah?
I miss the concept of protection. For me, house is protection more than ownership or, you know, how I decorate it or what it is made of.
There are some poems about that. I mean, actually, the one that I read on the New Hampshire Public Radio interview the other day is called Walls, and the walls are saying, "Hey, you should appreciate me, because I'm, you know, I am holding you in." And there's another one also about House of Birds, about birds getting in the house, and you know, and the being held in the house, wanting to leave but wanting to come back. So there is some of that. Do you want me to read the Walls one? Go ahead, expose the beams, try the open concept subdued by love seats, islands, and throw rugs, but please don't complain about the walls, each sheetrocked one once plastered by a different hand in a different subtle design, stripe, swirl, half moon, wave hello to each fingerprint of someone like you. Have these slogans, tear down the walls, don't put up walls that offend. The house wants you to know you misunderstand. Walls are boundaries everyone needs, some civilizing factor, some structure to hide behind, to hold up. The stories and the roof have a little backbone, i.e. a wall has windows and doors. Maybe you should talk more about doors. Deceptive ones like pocket doors, submissive folding doors, fussy latches, defensive locks, and nervous keys. What about knobs? Let's talk about knobs, not walls. Because who controls you? Not the walls. Identify and organize yours from yours, inside from outside, in here, over there. Compartmentalize like parts of your brain's areas where to be together or not are natural options to balance individual taste in framing and paint colors, places for your things thrown or dropped, yours hung or shelved. We all feel a little vulnerable sometimes, need a little personal space, and boundaries are not endings, but definitions to rest within, lean against, pass through. Remember those knobs? Retreat back through. Now, houselings, square up this wall between you and the walls with how you love suspense, a tease, a glimpse around a corner, the angles you step into and out of, shadow and light, hour by hour, freed through doorways. waiting or moving down the halls. You know those times when you sit in a room and it's nice, the house tucked around you like a vow. How could you without walls?
That's incredible.